have Denise Romney with us today. You are from Albany, Indiana. Is that correct?
Yes, New Albany, 2 words. Yep.
New Albany. And you have 5 sons. That's amazing. And you work with your husband. Now, if I'm correct, you work, your company is called Well Nourished Family?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's all about like eating healthy and how that affects areas of your life, correct?
Yeah, from anywhere from hormonal health to behavior, energy. Yes, all of that. The Well Nourished Family is to encompass everything, the whole body.
Okay, all right. So the reason I wanted to have you on was, number one, navigating through raising boys with your husband, and you work together. So that means you don't have that, hours in the day where you each go your separate way, or you don't have almost that break, right? You're in each other's kitchen. And for some people, that's very difficult. I know that when my husband and I started working, we had the same office, and eventually I couldn't do it. And it's not that he's actually cleaner than I am. It was just my creative flow couldn't happen when I was beside him. So we actually can't work in the same room together. We love each other, but I needed to have my own space. So I guess my very first question is, how is it, do you have a structured kind of outline? How do you actually work with your husband day in and day out?
Dolly, that's a good question. And it's taken us actually a number of years to kind of figure it out, because you got to give and take, right? Just like the relationship. And I want to first thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to get to know you better and what you do. I think your services are invaluable to women and to the relationship and the whole family, because the relationship is the foundation of the whole family. So thanks for what you're doing. So I'm like you. My creativity flows better when I'm in my own space, and I had to kick him out of the office too. So he's out. It took us a number of times to hear, but I feel like if I was on a phone call or he was on a phone call, I feel like I wanted to critique him, or I was worried he would critique me even more, right? And I would get nervous, and I don't know why, because he's an amazing man, but I would get nervous. So he works out in the living room. He was a school teacher for like 15 years. So he can handle the noise and the interruptions and distractions, and he can zone out really well where I can't. So I get the office where I can close the door, lock it if I need to, and get away from the 5 boys. So it took a while. In fact, sometimes what will happen if he's home, I rely on him too much. So sometimes he actually goes out of the house to work too, because I'll be like, hey, babe, I need, or I can't get this to work or whatever. It's nice to have him, especially for the computer stuff, to come and save the day. But I was always pulling him away from his work because of something I needed. So what we have really fallen into that worked the best is he goes to the coffee house sometimes from like 6 to 10 in the morning. And he does his thing. He does his emails and stuff like that. He's completely interrupted. I'm not pulling him away. The kids aren't pulling him away. He's good at, zoning that out, but I was pulling him in. So that has worked the best, is he has his times and then I have mine. And we just kind of tag team back and forth. So we're not always on each other's feet or under each other's feet. And it's worked really well, really well.
I have a friend who also works with her husband, and she found that establishing the roles that each played in the business was crucial to their relationship, even out of work, and also learning the boundaries of like when to leave work at work. Did you have to do something like that?
Oh, absolutely. We had like a whole brainstorming session, not just with me and my husband, with the kids too. So we sat down around the table and we're like, okay, these are all the things that need to be done. We list them, everything. Like someone needs to pay the bills, and somebody needs to do the grocery shopping and the cooking and the bathrooms and the back. Like we list it all. And we told the kids all the things that we're willing to do. We'll do the grocery shopping. We'll cook. We'll pay for it. We'll, we do all these things. And then we just asked them, what are you willing to do? And so the kids just started taking chores. So that's one thing with families, is just having a family meeting. It doesn't have to just be your spouse. Like if you have kids, pull them in, because they have dreams and goals too. So the whole session went, what do we want? What's a goal that our family wants? Then what are the things that have to be done so mom and dad can work, like, and the regular household jobs. And then my husband and I had another session, and we said, okay, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Because most of the time opposites attract in some way, right? And he's going to have different strengths than I do, and he does. And so we sat down and said, okay, what do you like doing the best? What do you abhor doing? Like, he does not like making the calls. He's very personable. He gets along with everybody, but making the calls for customers to like follow up and stuff with him, he gets nervous.
Okay.
And I'm like, I love that part.
Okay.
So we figured out where our strengths were. He is a master at words. As far as writing, and his handwriting is beautiful. And I'm like, I don't want to write the thank you letters.
Yeah, that would be me.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to do the Christmas cards. I don't want to write the letters. I'm not good at gratitude, but he is. So he gets all of that part. So he's still helping with customer care, but I'm doing the voice. He's doing the writing or the thank you gifts or anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
When there is, a decision to be made in the business or in the home, but let's just start with business. You two completely don't see eye to eye because, one's an art, one's a, admin kind of. Where do you kind of take that? What's your strategy?
I would have to say that with our business, we've been able to really just brainstorm through it. Usually I'm very visual. So as we're talking or something, I'm writing notes and I'm making like this spider-mogram or something, I'm just making a mess all over the place when it comes to anything in the business, when it comes to the budget, when it comes to new ideas or launching a new program. I don't know if I'm answering that question well, and I apologize, but we just really just keep talking it out until we land on something.
I think that's also a character thing too, right? Some people aren't as argumentative, right? And sometimes, and you're both the type of character that you'll discuss it. You'll work right through the situation. Some people are, it's hard for them when they have a bit, like sometimes my husband and I will not see eye to eye on a project, and I'll get so frustrated. We'll both be very frustrated with each other, and we'll actually have to have a timeout and then come back and discuss. So maybe it's just a character thing because it's probably, maybe it's more of a character thing because our character is more to, we used to want to be heard and understood, and now we're shifting into I want to hear and understand you. And when we shifted, now we can work through things better, but the tendency to want to be heard will still creep up. And so we'll be like this, but then it's like, okay, let's back up. Let me understand what you're actually saying. Think about how it would work. And then, okay, now let's explain. So maybe that's just happening.
And I would say that's probably what it is. I definitely always want to be heard. I've been in that place a lot in my life. Because once I get an idea in my head, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is the idea. This is the thing. And he is the thinker, and he kind of processes it for us. So again, it's just our strengths and our weaknesses working together. I know when we have questions or doubts, we've had the conversation of how do we get past that. So your family's using timeout. You and your spouse are using like, we need a timeout from this. Let's come back. And we're like, sometimes we'll say, okay, the story in my head is, we'll say that to ourselves, to each other. Like that's our cue. Like, okay, I'm not understanding. My story in my head is that you're going for this and you're not willing to listen, or this is the way you want it. And then I'll be like, okay, your story's right or your story's wrong. And say, okay, I'm being irrational or I'm being too harsh or whatever.
Right.
Because he's so much a thinker, and I'm just like, oh, good idea, let's do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like that, the story in my head. Often people will use the term, what I'm hearing is, or they'll say, this is how I'm feeling, this is how you're making me feel. But I like the story in my head because it is really, however we're processing it, it's not necessarily what they're saying, it's how we're processing it. So I like the story in my head.
Well, and that really comes from Brene Brown. She's the one that there was some training. She's the one that she's like, there's a story. I'm telling a story. All of our brain needs a story. We're going to tell a story. We've got to fill in the blanks. And we'll make it up, even if it's not true, because the brain just does that. It's got to rationally have this sequential sequence to it. So it's a good way for us to kind of take a step back and breathe and go, okay, am I acting this way on purpose? Am I
emotion out of it? Fantastic. So I want to talk to you also about how does food and your nutrition directly affect maybe yourself and how it brings into your relationship?
Okay. So when it comes to food and nutrition, like if I'm not feeling my body properly, or if women in general, if we're not feeling our body, our hormones can get out of balance. We're a lot more grumpier. I mean, we've all been hangry, where our blood sugar stuff drops. We just can't rationally think well. We lash out, we get angry, we're snooty. And food just has a lot to do with our behavior and our energy. Like if I'm not eating well, at the end of the day, after working really hard, I'm not going to have time for the kids or for my husband. So it's a huge factor, in my opinion. If we're not feeding ourselves, we can't feed others. Like we can't pour into them either. It's huge. Exercise, nutrition, positive affirmations. It's all very important for a really healthy, well-rounded life.
Are there any principles when it comes to nutrition that you stand by, like must have breakfast or must have, daily food groups, or do you have any kind of like, not a blueprint, but things that you really make sure you have on a daily basis that will help with your emotional balance and your, nutritional kind of intake?
For me, it's really focusing on whole food nutrition, like plant-based nutrition. That's what I really need. That gives me the best energy, the clearest thinking. It keeps our immune system strong. So it is whole food, plant-based focused. Now, I still will eat meat or whatever now and again, but that's really what we teach and we encourage. And listening to your body, just like you need to listen and respect and have conversation with your spouse when working. You also need to listen to your body about food. It will tell you. We're just not listening. Most of us have fatigue and we just down coffee or whatever, right, to kind of perk ourselves up, and our body's saying, hey, I need some help, and we're not listening. So it's all just a focus on real food. I had actually had chronic fatigue for 14 years before I really focused on my nutrition. And that's what ended up turning it into a business, is because I had such great results. My hormones were a mess. I had infertility issues with polycystic ovarian syndrome. We were sick all the time. My husband was on asthma and allergy medicines and headaches. And, you can't work and function if you're in bed all the time, not feeling it. And then, of course, if you're dealing with infertility, now you've got depression and feeling like you're just not good enough, or your body's not good enough. And focusing on food turned all that around for us. And that's where the passion in our business came from.
Really? Is there something that you removed from your diet, like completely?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I've completely removed. And I just started off pretty simple by reading labels on the back. I didn't go like all vegetarian or vegan or anything like that. I just focused on getting some processed foods out. And my top 4 that I really avoided was hydrogenated oils. They are really bad at interrupting our receptors and our hormones. So I don't do partially hydrogenated. I don't do hydrogenated oils. Like, I'm that weirdo at the restaurant that says, can I see the bottle of salad dressing, or can I see, like, I need to know what oil you're using. So hydrogenated oils, food dyes, anything that might be colored. So you read the back and it says FD&C or Red Lake or any of those things, completely avoid as well. I had a son who it caused hyperactivity in him. The kid would literally bounce off the walls, and he was fine otherwise. So food dyes, and then artificial sweeteners. I don't use any of those. And then high fructose corn syrup. I avoided that as well.
So I guess I just want to recap the 4 things: hydrogenated oils, food dyes, artificial sweeteners, and the corn syrup.
Yep, high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's great to know. I mean, that's a starting point, right? That's very doable. That's very doable.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree. We've got to have that strong foundation. Absolutely.
And I love that you're bringing this to your community. What a powerful message you're, shifting it even within your community. That's fantastic.
Thank you, Dolly.
Oh, well, Denise, thank you so much. Let's stay on. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody, and then stay on for a few minutes. I will leave all your information on the video below. If you want to check out Denise Romney and her well-nourished family, then I'll have all that information. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.